Hey, what's going on, dudes? My name is MrRhexx, and we are back with some more Elder Scrolls Skyrim. On the last episode, we did a round trip around the beautiful, lonely, sad, and miserable town of Dawnstar, and we basically just spent the entire episode just talking about the place, you know? Just talking about some of the history, some of its secrets, some of its glitches, just trying to cover as much as possible, because once again, we've been kind of just going ham on all of these quests, just going from dungeon to dungeon, that I thought, hey, why don't we just relax a bit, take a little breather, and then just walk around town and just talk, man. And we did a little bit of that. It was a little bit rambly on my part, I apologize. But we did get a lot done in terms of just discovering some of the magnificence of Dawnstar. Today, we're going to be going here into the Folly of Hela, and then we're going to be going into the ancient Nordic dungeon that we talked about in the last episode. And we'll talk about that in just a bit, because I know that you guys are pretty excited about that. Before, just wanted to show you guys this, because we were basically in the area, so I thought, hey, why don't we just talk about this? So, Hela was basically a merchant vessel that just ran aground here in the Sea of Ghosts, which is something that happens fairly often. As you can see, this place is just filled with icebergs, and ships don't really like crossing this very much. And this one ran aground and got destroyed. And now we have this guy called Dirkitis, who is apparently looking for treasure that might have been sunken inside of the vessel. He's a treasure hunter, a bounty hunter, whatever you want to call it. Maybe a thief, I don't know. But regardless, he is part of a one of those miscellaneous quests from the Brotherhood, I believe, where you're supposed to kill him. So one of those contracts. So someone clearly wants him dead, but we don't really get a chance to really understand why that is. Probably safe to imagine that he is indeed a thief, that he's probably been stealing from other people for a while. But as you can see, he's actually been doing quite well. He's got an emerald, an amethyst over here. We got a sapphire, soul gem fragments. He even has one of the very rare statues of Dibella. Probably, of course, snatched from the bottom of the sea, originally being carried by the vessel. More amethysts. We got two of them. We got a soul gem. So there's a lot of stuff. He even has a chest here, but it's been protected by a bear trap. Not really much to talk about here. Just kind of wanted to just get it for the purposes of my map completion, I suppose. But there is indeed a chest that we can get up here. So we're going to go ahead and try and do that. I would like to get those gems, but I also don't want to kill him, because I'm soft-hearted, I guess. But I've been trying to collect gems this entire playthrough for my house. I want to just have like a treasure room, like a hoard. So I'm trying to collect as much as I can. I know that you can collect some down here. There's like random gems that you can find here. We got a sapphire. We got a ruby. Oh, I didn't think of this. I'm gonna die. I'm gonna die. Alright, let's just survive. Alright, let's try and be quick about this. I don't know if I can find any more. I know that there's a bunch of them, typically, that are just kind of scattered everywhere. If you, like, swim around a lot, you will inadvertently just kind of kick them around. But, it's hard to see. That's fine. We don't really need to get them. I am very tempted to take these gems. The problem with attacking Dirkitis is that he's considered essential. So he's probably going to be pissed if I come back again. But these gems are actually, they replenish. So you can get them, and then you can come back. And if enough days have actually passed, you can just get them again. So it's a good way of making money and collecting gems. Just a little tip from me. In any case, so what are we doing here? This is going to be an ancient Nordic temple. And what's interesting is that the necromancer inside, I believe his name is like Ariendel, something like that. He used to be a citizen of Dawnstar, but he was kicked out of Dawnstar because he was a creepy dude. He used to just stare at women and fantasize about them. He's just like a creepy pervert, basically. And the reason he was killed was specifically because he started to experiment on the dead, specifically on the female dead. He's one of those guys that resurrects female corpses in order to have sex with them. And I'm not even trying to be like conspiracy theorist about this. It's like very explicitly said, and we're actually going to go through the journals of this guy and you will see exactly what I mean. But I do want to answer some questions, and here we have Rukatofan. He said, I had heard that the MrRhexx turns into a bucket because they didn't actually create the item in Skyrim's data files. They imported it directly from Oblivion. But because the image requires some sort of item code to be attached to exist in the game, it was assigned the item code of a bucket. Interesting. So when you interact with it, it changes into the item that it was assigned to in the coding. And you also say, I don't know, I'm not a programmer. So I may be splitting it wrong. Yeah, I'm not a programmer either. I mean, it makes sense what you're saying, and it could very well be the truth. What I do know is that if you look into the Xerxes here in the files of the game, you will see that there is no object called the Mysterium Xerxes. There is that like activation. I'm not sure what acti actually stands for. But there is no like actual object with the name of the item, so that does kind of make sense, which is kind of interesting that you just interact with it and it just then it changes. Let's go ahead and deal with these guys. Now I believe that all of these druggers are female, as you can see. And we'll get farther, of course, into the dungeon, and we'll really get to experience whether or not that is actually true. But this used to be, allegedly, a burial site for battle maidens, which is a name that is given by the Nords in Skyrim for basically female warriors. It's a name that has been used a few times. I know that in Riften, one of the characters in there says that his daughter used to be a battle maiden before she was killed and all that stuff. Like, it's a name that is actually used. And it's essentially just female warriors, basically. So this guy actually found this place and started to resurrect them in order to do perverted things to them. And you can see very clearly that it doesn't end with just the druggers. He's actually been doing some pretty foul experiments in order to resurrect ghosts. Now, some of these ghosts, I would believe, are not actually warriors, but maybe just members of Dawnstar, and we'll see why I believe that in just a second. Trying not to get hit by this guy. Ow. Clearly not succeeding very well. There we go. No, and that... It can be tricky if you create those explosions because the books, the journals, will actually fly away and then they can become a little bit harder to actually find. But regardless, first journal. So you're going to see that it is very literal what I'm talking about here. Day 1 of Arundel's journal. It seems the cretins of Dawnstar are not quite as foolish as I had surmised. They found my experimentations and, needless to say, were not pleased with what they saw. No matter. My work can only flourish without the destructions of living amongst the unenlightened. I have found a cave off of the north coast of Skyrim that will be more than sufficient for my continued studies. The ruins of Ingvild should hold the materials I need to learn more about reanimating and enslaving the dead. On a personal note, I will miss the young maidens of Dawnstar. Such beauty was intoxication. I often found my thoughts wandering around them, imagining secret encounters between myself and one or two of the local girls. Now, unfortunately, one of those local girls actually found this secret cave, and not very good things happened to her. We're gonna go ahead and see if we can read that journal once we find it. Nothing more to see here, just gonna be looting a little bit. But, we got a question here by Dogukan Mert. Says, great video, Rex, but there is still one thing that I don't understand. If you cannot destroy a Daedric prince, then why did Trinimac challenge Boethia? I mean, if there is no win against them, then why would you even try? I just honestly think that, Trinimag at the time considered himself to be the strongest. Let me actually do Oak Flesh. Ow. Just to be able to resist this a little bit better. Honestly, Trinimag probably considered himself to be the strongest, probably like creature in the world at the time. I mean, he was considered to be the strongest kind of demigod slash god at the time, so it would make sense. He had just defeated Lorcan in, I think this is not going well, in single combat. I honestly think he just got cocky. I mean, if Malakath is any indication as a personality of what Trinimag might have been in the past, I think cockiness cannot be disregarded. I don't know if there's really an answer, honestly, that I would have for that question. Like any direct kind of lore answer. We just know that Trinimag specifically was very egotistical. He really hated the idea of dishonoring his people. Is the sort of person that would die, if needed be, just for his people. But he was also very just anti-human and then very pro-elf. And he saw the idea of the elves leaving Aldneris to form their own community with Daedras to be kind of like just dishonoring the elves. But I would honestly just attribute it to cockiness, if I can be honest. It's really hard to tell. Ow! We're gonna try and explore this entire room if we can. I want to go and try to go upstairs. Jesus. That's another one downstairs. I want to be careful here. I'm actually going to use the shout because if you fall, you're going to die. So, we really don't want to mess around. Just a little chest. Nothing too special here. There we go. Now, this is a question that I'm really interested in talking about. Jordis Samano. I hope I pronounced that right. You have the tilde on the A, so Samano. Hi, saludos from Spain. My question is, how do the people of Tamriel, not us, the players, but I would imagine you're meaning the people that actually live in the world. How do they know that Tiber Septim became a god? He died, and then what? People just assumed that he became a god? What evidence do they really have, or did he became one after they started praying to him? So, okay, so it's interesting because, yeah, when you pray to a god, the god becomes stronger. If you stop praying to a god, you would imagine that the god would lose its power. So you can probably envision a scenario where people just start praying to a person, and then that person just kind of gets power and becomes a god. I mean, that is not surreal to think about, I suppose. The thing is, there was a group of people, for sure, that even before there was such a thing as, like, real kind of, like, oh, this guy is clearly giving us power. Because, like, in the world of Elder Scrolls, you pray to a shrine, you get power from that god. From the god that owns the shrine. Like, that is very explicit, right? When you go in Elder Scrolls Oblivion and you're doing the pilgrimage and you require the blessing of Talos, like Talos it's literally blessing you. Like you're asking for power and he's giving you very real, very tangible power. And that is the case with well, I mean, in the world, yeah, the interactions with gods are very real. You talk to a god, the god talks back. God's back. That's gonna say weird. But yeah, so when you pray to a shrine, gods literally respond to you. And of course, there is also that evidence in Oblivion where during the main quest, you literally require the blood of a god in order to activate the MrRhexx, and you basically find a chest piece of Tiber Septim. And it actually works too. So that's literal evidence that Tiber Septim is a god, Talos is a god. But the question is, because that's not necessarily what you're asking. You're asking before, how did they originally realize that he was indeed a god? And we'll talk about it in just a second, because we have found another journal. Day 8. I have established a temporary workstation in the cold caves and have found multiple burial chambers within the snow and ice. While in this first chamber, I exhumed a few test subjects, all female. I was stunned to find my mind wandering against again to the women of Dawnstar as I examined my find. At first I was slightly disturbed by my thoughts, but later I found myself re-evaluating. Creepy. The first trials went splendidly. Each subject was reanimated in a state of total complacency, bending to my every task and whim. I have ordered a few of my new servants to guard the island while the rest will act as my personal entourage, standing by me at all times, standing watch over me while I sleep. ... Mother freaking ... Okay, I will pick up the book. So, as you can see, things are getting pretty darn creepy. Okay, back to your question, Jordy. What's interesting is that in Morrowind, in Elder Scrolls Morrowind, there is actually a cult of Tiber Septim. Like, it's funny because that is kind of like before the idea of Tiber Septim becoming like a god was universally established. You actually had a group of Imperials that loved the idea of Tiber Septim, his ideology, what he stood for, and the fact that he was a human and possibly became a god. They liked that idea so much, they actually basically grew into this cult. And now, the actual thing that the cult wanted to accomplish was they wanted to kill the emperors that were not directly tied into the bloodline of Tiber Septim in order to kind of just put Tiber Septim, heirs into the throne. But the fact that there was a cult, the fact that there was a banner that they kind of rallied, towards, kind of speaks a little bit towards that. But interrupt that because we have another journal. Day 21, this is like 10 days later. An intriguing development. Tonight my guards have brought me a trespasser they found near the cave. At first, I was understandably upset. Not only was I disturbed during one of my few moments alone with my favorite servant, but I recognized the trespasser as a milkmaid from Dawnstar. She remembered me as well and made bold claims that I had been lurking near her at all hours. What lies! True, I had taken notice of her on occasion, but she was nowhere near the most noticeable of maidens in town. Her continued accusations, coupled with my fear of more uninvited guests, led me to conclude that she could never return to Dawnstar. My servants were quick to carry out my sentencing. Her body is here next to me, as I write here. Funny, her eyes are still so full of life. But perhaps I will try a new experiment tonight, using fresher materials. Okay. So as you can see, things are going in a very specific direction, and we have no control over it. All right. But yeah, I haven't been paying attention, but I'm pretty sure every single Draugr in this dungeon is female. Obviously for that purpose, because it's like a burial ground explicitly for that. But yeah, let me just stop here for just a second. I know that you guys don't like it as much when I just stop and talk, but because there's gonna be a boss basically directly in front of us. Yeah, man, people really wanted to believe that he was a god. He did so much, and then he just kind of mysteriously disappeared. And he basically became close to a god. Like, you have to understand too that like, there's this very interesting quote that says that people literally could not see him without seeing a dragon, because his prowess with the voice was so incredible that he literally became kind of like a dragon, probably in the same way as MrRhexx when you can get that cool like shout that transforms you into this like armored kind of dragonish armor. I would imagine it might be something like that, but he was literally like, he had this demigod status. There were this crazy storm that would always follow him, which was why he was named Stormcrown, right? And then it is said that like battle mages during his crusade would literally just give up fighting against him as soon as they would see this storm, because he was so majestic and so incredible. They would just be like, I'm not fighting that guy. Like, people, like, he was basically a demigod when he was alive, not just in his own specific power, but once he got ownership of Numidium, he was literally unstoppable, right? So there is this strong fascination that people had with him, and I would imagine, and this is just my interpretation, that a cult started, right? Just following from the events of Elder Scrolls Oblivion, it seems like a cult started that venerated him. They wanted him to be, they saw him more as a god rather than just a mortal. They actually venerated his spirit. It's likely that that might have been a good reason why he indeed ended up becoming a god. Just people actually venerating him. And then eventually I would imagine that he became so powerful that he could instill blessings. What is interesting is that there is actually an avatar of Tiber Septim in Elder Scrolls Morrowind. Like, there's a character that actually appears, and he gives you this coin that is supposed to make you more powerful. It increases your luck, and basically gives you like some tips on how to defeat Dagoth Ur, which is like the bad guy of Morrowind. But once you have that experience, you actually talk to another character, and the other character literally tells you like, oh wow, you actually saw what could have possibly been an avatar of Tiber Septim. So the guy was a god basically by then already. So, you know, it's hard to tell, because as far as real evidence, I mean, we only have what the books tell us, and we only have what the games show us. And since Morrowind, we've had tons of evidence that he's a god. Like, very clear evidence, from blessings to actual avatars, to obviously cultists venerating this entity. But before then, I don't know if we really have much, honestly. It's hard to tell how it actually all started. I'm a little sick, as you can tell. But, as you can see, he has that ghost directly by him. It seems like that was his personal favorite or something. Yikes. Alright, let's just go and defeat this creepy dude as fast as we can. Hopefully we don't get one-shotted by this guy. Gotta make sure that we keep ourselves topped off. Alright, we good. Wasn't too bad. Oh, come on. Beautiful. We got his keys that allow us to actually leave this cave, and there it is. The dungeon has been completed. Now all we have to do is find the very last journal. I'm not sure actually where this one is. I hope I didn't miss it. We'll do a little quick search around and see where we can find it. I know that there's a room here, right? Oh, and another ghost. It's creepy because you can see that there's only one bed in here. This is clearly his room. I mean, he had a key to the room, and the ghost was laying on his bed, so it's like, okay, we get it, we get it. We have the, oh, that's the journal part 2. As I said before, I'm going to collect those gems later. I'm going to read the journal in just a bit. I just want to loot this up. Anything that I want, I guess I can take this, get some money out of this, and the book. The new experiment has proven a success. The milkmaid, whose name still escapes me, was revived as the others, bowing to my commands with only one interesting development. She has reformed incorporeally, more phantasm than reanimated dead. As her glowing visage stood before me, I found my hand reaching out to touch her. As my fingers passed through her, I felt a sensation unlike any other, as if her essence were invigorating my very soul, connecting with me on a level no human of flesh and blood could do. This discovery is life-changing. And how many days is this? This is 7 days later. I have ordered my older servants to go out and find any more subjects that may have become lost. With the discovery of the inner sanctum deeper still within Ingvild, I should have sufficient room to store many new materials until I can transform them into willing slaves. I look back on my daydreams whilst living in Dawnstar and wonder if there were in fact portents of things to come. Oh my god. And that is the story of Arundel. The very last question here from Nibba Jones. Can you do an update vlog telling us about your life these days? Are you still married? No, I ended up divorcing about a year and a half or so ago. Currently I'm single. I'm living in Michigan. I'm currently, I mean, if you want to know about my life a little bit, I'm not going to really say much, but I'm currently going under the process of trying to, because I have a conditional green card. Me and my ex-wife, we fell in love. I moved here. We lived together for 2 to 3 years. So I got my green card to stay with her, of course. And then we ended up divorcing, unfortunately. So now I have this green card that is conditional. I'm supposed to basically apply to remove the conditions when it's due, which is basically now. So I'm sort of going through that process currently. It's a little bit stressful because, you know, I mean, I've been living here already for like 4 years, basically, in the United States, and I've kind of made a life here. I got friends, you know, I got furniture, you know, I have a life here, so the idea of leaving sounds really really depressing. So I'm doing my best to like try and apply to remove the conditional status so that I can get a real green card, which would allow me to stay here for another 10 years, so that I can start investing on my future here, which would be really great. But yeah, I'm basically just kind of going through that process right now, doing that application. I'm moving real soon. There's really not much to talk about, just been working hard on the channel. You probably have noticed I've been doing a lot more videos lately. Been focusing on Dungeons & Dragons a lot, which I've been enjoying a lot. And Skyrim, for the most part, seems to be dying a bit. It's definitely not, like, people are just not as interested in Skyrim this year as much as they were last year. So that's kind of sad, especially because my channel is, you know, literally built on Skyrim. So it's been kind of depressing in that way. But I've been enjoying doing D&D videos, and D&D is blowing up. People are really interested in that. So it's been a blast just doing those videos, talking about the world, and the support has been great. I really truly appreciate it. But yeah, maybe I'll do a vlog someday. Now that I'm using my camera more, I might record one of those. But I hope that gives you at least something. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, follow me on Twitter. If you want to support me, please go ahead and do so. Patreon.com/MrRhexx to support. If you can donate just $1 a month, that would be fantastic. That's only $12 a year. It's probable that it might not mean much to you, but it would mean the world to me. You know, any type of support that you can muster, that would be more than appreciated. But otherwise, you know, just leaving a like, it's fine. Or just follow me on Twitter. Any of those things is great. Anyways, it's been a blast doing this episode with you guys. I hope to see you all next time as well. Peace out.